This is Coach's Corner on WBCK FM, Lakeview Ford down here in downtown Battle Creek. I'm Bill Broderick, sports editor and columnist for the Battle Creek Inquirer. Coach's Corner has been talking to city high school coaches for more than 60 years, bringing you all the insights from the week in high school football. We'll be talking to our first coach of the morning here soon, but first, the Coach's Corner Lakeview Ford scoreboard last night over at Marshall for their homecoming.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
I am Bill Broderick, back here on Coach's Corner. We're here with our first coach of the morning. We have Coach Mark Massetti, the St. Phil Fighting Tigers. How's it going, Coach?
Good, Bill. How are you doing?
Well, you're down here early, Coach, because you got some business going on a little bit later today. St. Phil's going to be playing their homecoming game, 2 o'clock down at Sealyville Post. They will be hosting Athens. Homecoming Saturday. That brings some challenges. It brings some fun. I think the kids have a lot of fun. Sometimes it's a headache for the coaches, but hopefully it'll be a fun day for the Tigers today.
It's great to play on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, we like playing Saturday afternoon games. It's a different atmosphere, you know, and it's kind of like a playoff atmosphere when you get to play an afternoon game. You know, in the old days, our playoff games were always on Saturdays. You know, they didn't have Friday night games, so it just brings back those kinds of memories. Getting to play on a Saturday afternoon game, and, you know, everything's pretty much focused on that game. You know, as far as homecoming is concerned, I think our kids did a pretty good job this week of sticking with what they needed to. You know, they enjoyed themselves with the homecoming activities, but like I said last week, from 2:30 to 5:30, they were pretty focused on football. You know, hopefully that the little bit of illness that we've been going through is going to shake itself out, and we'll be ready to go today.
Yeah, coming in a little bit shorthanded, dressing only 11 guys today, and the guys that are on the field also fighting a little cold that's going through the team. But Athens also is the other part of that equation there. They're coming in, they're winless, but they've had a brutal schedule so far here. They've played some tough teams, including state-ranked Climax Scots. They've been outscored 205-48 in their first 4 games, but that's a little bit deceiving. Athens is a good squad. They have a really good running game with senior Landon Bennett, who's a 1,000-yard rusher last year. They can give you guys a little challenge. What do you guys?
Well, I talked to the kids about it already this week. That's one of the things that we've talked about. Is it's like what we went through last year. You know, we were not a bad football team, but we played 3 state-ranked teams and defending league champ in our first four of our first 5 games. You know, we lose those 4, and we ended up 5-4. Athens is going through the same thing. You know, they've had 4 good, solid football teams that they played against. And, you know, they're 0-4, but that's not indicative of what kind of team they have. They're physical, and they do have some speed. You know, and, you know, it's something that we work at, and we've got to get better at as far as the physical part. And, you know, it's going to be a tough game for us.
Yeah, Landon Bennett is one guy that you have to kind of see him on tape and make sure you guys have something for him. His speed and his able to break open plays has been key for them. He has a school record for in special teams, some punt returns the last year, and scoring touchdowns. That kind of thing, is that something that your defense has to kind of look out for a little bit?
We've talked and we've worked this week about trying to keep him bottled up. You know, I got to see him play last week, and he gave Mendon all kinds of fits in the return game. You know, they did a decent job of keeping him bottled up on offense, but in the return game, he was nothing but a problem for him. And you let him get out in the open, he's going to cause you issues. He's a good player. The
return game can be huge in 8-player football, and a lot of times you see teams kick away from people. They almost, sometimes the strategy will be just kick the ball out of bounds. What's your philosophy on that a little bit?
Our philosophy is we're going to kick the ball deep and play football. I mean, that's what we talk about all the time. You know, keep the ball way here, keep the ball way there. No, you know, we're playing football. And we like to we're going to kick off, we're going to play, we're going to go at it. You know, we work on special teams, we coach special teams, so let's play them.
Got some key guys on your side of the field. That's some good athletes. How are they feeling today? Brady Latefoot, Colt Myers, they feeling okay?
Yeah, as far as I know, yesterday at practice we still had a few that were, whatever it is, it's lingering, and it's been going through the team, but everybody will be dressed and everybody will be on the field. We'll just see how it goes.
We don't want to look ahead too far, but there's one game that's kind of circled on the calendar a lot of times when St. Phil plays. You guys, Athens today, which is a huge game, and you guys want to get over that 3-game losing streak and get right. But then you play Climax Scots next week at Climax Scots, and there's a rivalry there with a lot of these kids play together in other teams in the co-op situation.
Yeah.
How much do you have to kind of talk to the kids about focusing on Athens before you get to Climax Scots?
Oh, hasn't been an issue. That hasn't been an issue at all. We 1 week at a time.
Yeah. And
kids, they're concentrated on Athens this week, so that's not a problem at all.
What part of Athens' game plan do you guys have to focus on most beyond Landon Bennett to make sure that you guys stay in the game a little bit?
We have to shut down their running game. Like I said, they're physical up front, and we've got to shut down their running game. If we can't shut down their running game, it's going to be a long day.
All right, Coach, you're going to be a busy guy today, so we're going to let you get out of here on that. We'll talk about next week, maybe a victory over Athens, and we'll also be possibly talking about Climax Scots game. So we'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning here on WBCK after a short break.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
Hey, we're back here on Coach's Corner with our next Coach of the Morning, the victorious Robbie Hatton of the Penfield Panthers. How's it going today, Coach?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
It's a good day when you get a win. You guys ended a 3-game losing streak. You guys, we talked about last week how you guys were kind of beaten up a little bit, bruised up, broken a little bit with guys with fighting injuries, figuring out guys at different spots and rotations there. But you guys came out and looked pretty good last night. You guys figured some things out during the week, and King Guthrie said as much after the game last night. He said, we were hoping to figure some things out, and I think we did. And it looked like you guys hit a little bit of a groove last night. Did you guys like how you played last night?
Yeah, absolutely. Our kids played real hard. We had to pull up 2 kids from our JV squad this week just to give us a little bit of depth in some positions. And, one of our kids, Tommy Wright, didn't come off the field on offense, and then Trevin, he was our backup T last night and had a couple big runs when Caden came out. And, first varsity game for those 2 kids, and they really stepped up. And, it's kind of a testament to our whole team this week is, hey, yeah, sure, we're bruised up, we're banged up, next guy up, we feel like we're this close. We're this close to being a great football team. And, last night was a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and the game kind of turned a little bit. It was a 7-7 game for the longest time. Teams were kind of feeling each other out. And then right before halftime, Marshall was going for it on a 4th down near midfield, 4th and 2. And I can see the Marshall coaches talking to the Marshall offensive linemen saying, you guys can go after this, and we can keep the ball the rest of the half, and maybe they score. And if they do score, the game kind of changes. But you guys had a huge stop. Isaiah Adams had a great solo tackle in that situation. Yeah. Stopped him short of the sticks. You guys got the ball, and then the biggest part of that is that you took advantage of that and went down and scored. Talk about that play and that little moment there in the game.
Yeah, our defense played lights out all night. We really controlled. Yeah, sure, they had a couple passes here and there, but we kind of had a bend but don't break mentality. Of hey, let's pressure the quarterback. Sure, they might get a 10-15 yard gain here and there, but then let's get back at it the next play. And that was a big change for us. We left a couple points on the board prior to that, which we're working through those things, right? But it was definitely a stop and kind of a momentum swing for us. And our offense responded, and that's what we said is, hey, if the defense gets a stop, let's try to put one on the scoreboard right before halftime. And we did, and obviously going into half up 14-7 was kind of a big deal for us. And then coming out of the half and getting a stop right away, and then our offense kind of just started clicking.
Yeah, that was big too. The turnover right away after halftime and getting the ball and then scoring right again, and that turned it to Penfield's side completely at that point. And then you got to be feeling good about themselves. Getting Caden Guthrie back healthy with the ball in his hands. We talked about last week how he only had 3 carries before he dislocated his pinky there and left the game last week and left you guys shorthanded against a Northwest team that you guys matched up pretty well against, and you guys came up short against. But him running the ball last night, his hand a little taped up. He didn't seem to have too much trouble holding the ball, and then but his feet were working great too. So
yeah,
was great
absolutely.
Night.
Well, we had to make up the average. Last week he only had 3, so we had to give him 31 this week to make up that average. We can't have that average dipping a little bit with those carries per game. So no, Caden's a great runner. I've said it to you multiple times. That kid is, he's just a hard-nosed football player. He sees the holes well. He cuts well. And he relies on his O-line. The O-line was really making some holes last night. They were really driving, getting to the second level, and that allowed Caden to read their blocks and make good cuts. So, as good as Caden is, I was just impressed with the way our O-line played last night. All 5 of them were on the, down blocking, and it was a great night for the Panthers.
Yeah, he had 191 yards rushing on those 31 carries, like you said, and 3 touchdowns. I was really impressed with Isaiah Adams. He was the WBCK player of the game last night, and we have something for Isaiah Adams for that. But you talked last week about how he was kind of in there a little bit, spot duty for quarterback. Last night he was your quarterback most of the first half.
Yep.
Running that option a little bit and also showing the ability to throw the ball to keep the defenses honest. Talk about Isaiah Adams and how he kind of maybe took the next step, and maybe he's going to be your quarterback in the future a little bit.
Yeah, here's the thing with Zay. Zay is an athlete. We got to get Zay the ball as much as possible, and we felt like out at Z we weren't getting him the ball enough. But you could see last night he did play Z as well. We're going to move him around as much as we can to get him the ball, keep defenses honest. Obviously, anytime that kid has the ball in his hands, he's very dangerous. He looked really good in the read option last night. And then, obviously, like I said, putting him out at Z, we were still able to get him do some things that way as well. So, it definitely makes our offense click when we can have a running threat. But we also throw the ball pretty well, as you can see. Campy came in and threw the ball well, and Calvin had a drive, and we throw the ball well.
It might be a week-to-week situation with that, a matchup situation.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of goes back to if a defense is disciplined. If their defense is disciplined and they're keying on the quarterback, it might be a little bit of a different story. But if they're keying hard on Caden, it's nice to have Zay be able to pull that and run. So, it's going to kind of be a week-to-week matchup, and see who's kind of performing well.
Yeah, great win last night. Bring you guys up to 2-3. You have a chance to get back to 500 really quick. You're hosting Coldwater, a Coldwater team that's struggling a little bit, but people around here know that the Cardinals have a strong football program going back years, playoff perennial back a few years ago, and had hard times a little bit in the last few years, but they always have some big boys, and they have a tough offense to kind of diagnose sometimes. And talk about next week and hosting the Coldwater Cardinals.
Yeah, homecoming week for us. It's going to be a fun week. The kids are excited. See everybody come back for homecoming, pack the stands. Coldwater's a good football team. Don't let their record fool you. They've been in some dogfights this year. A couple close scores. It could have, the record could be completely different. They have some talent. They have some speed. Some big boys up front, and the biggest thing that we're going to have to do with Coldwater is just make sure we're protecting the football. We can't leave points on the scoreboard. We got to make sure we're finishing drives, not turning it over. And just do our jobs. That's the biggest thing we tell our kids all the time is do your job. If you can trust the person next to you to do their job, and you do your job, we're going to be pretty darn successful. But it's when we try to bail our brothers out because we don't trust them. That's when we struggle a little bit. So do your jobs, focus on your job, do the task at hand, and we'll be successful.
Homecoming, like you said, for Penfield. I know you like homecoming.
I love homecoming.
The Hatton homies will be fired up, and you guys get rolling. Anything special you have to do for homecoming to get the kids, make sure you kind of keep that balance, or you just let them go after it?
We're just going to get after it this week, Bill. Homecoming is fun. We're going to have a lot of our friends and family there in the crowd. But between 2:45 and 6 o'clock, we got to take care of business. We got to make sure we're focusing on our keys, watching our film, and really getting after it at practice, and we'll be all right, as long as we just take care of business this week.
All right, well, we'll look forward to that game next week at Penfield. Coldwater's coming to town. See if the Panthers can get back to 500. Thanks, Coach. We'll be talking to our next Coach of the Morning here on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on 95.3 WBCK. Proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
Hey, we're back with our next coach of the morning here with Coach Brett Vernon of the Lakeview Spartans. How's it going, Coach?
It's going good. Thanks for having me again.
We had Lakeview going on the road. They faced a state-ranked Portage Northern team, number 7 in the rankings there. They're undefeated, and they're loaded up with a lot of quality athletes all throughout the lineup. You guys fell 57-28. Again, it didn't seem like you guys had too much trouble scoring, but you had a little trouble slowing Portage Northern down a little bit and keeping pace with them. Talk about what you had, what challenges you had with Portage Northern a little bit.
Yeah, obviously a good team, really good players all along their team. The score probably doesn't indicate what actually happened in the game. We got down early right away, down in a 21-point deficit. Part of that, they just came out, had a couple long scoring drives, and then we went for a fake punt early in the game. We gave them the ball back down into our territory, and that got them up, 21. But then after that, once that second quarter started, we responded well. Got that thing to within a 2-score game all the way through the third quarter into the fourth quarter. If we would have done a little different things in that first quarter, it would have been a different game, I think.
Falling behind early with that hole in terms of a really good team like Portage Northern, that brings some challenges in itself in terms of keeping the kids' heads in the game. But you had to like how they kind of responded from there and played well. Does that bode well for going forward a little bit, you think?
I hope so. I hope we can build some confidence off it. Obviously giving up 57 points defensively is not good, but we did do some decent things defensively. We haven't been great defensively all year, but we had a few stops in there. We did a few things, got a couple turnovers. There were some good things that happened there. Obviously, can't give up 57 points, but there's some things that we can build on. We were a little bit better with alignment assignment, and so I think we grew from last week, and I'm actually really happy from what we accomplished this game.
You stayed diverse on offense. You've been talking all year how you have to get the running game going to make other things happen, and you did that to an extent. Jake Harchek scored 2 long touchdown runs on the ground, breaking free for some scores there, and that set up some passing game attacks also, hitting Zach in a screen pass for a long touchdown, and then Davis Barr scored again for you with a long pass, and he's been doing that all year long, making sure that the running game and the passing game is working. That's what you guys needed going forward. Did you like how that happened last night?
Yeah, it did. Our plays were explosive. Our scoring plays were like 50-plus on our 4 scoring plays. Big plays there. When you had some decent stuff going on in between. But, yeah, if you got to get a safety to step up into the box, you got Davis Barr on the outside that's helping out a pass. There's things that we can do. There's explosiveness to our offense. That's great. Still got to do some little things correctly. Make sure we're getting hats on hats in the run game. And then, with the kids that we got, Jake, Zach, and Davis, they're fast enough and explosive enough to get through some tackles, run past some people to get some big plays.
Well, that's probably what you want to see the most of, because there's never been any trouble with Lakeview scoring on explosive plays. They have the athletes that can at any point in the game break open a 50-yard touchdown run, but you can't always depend on those kind of things, and getting those chain movers, those first downs and those longer drives. Is that what you'd like to see a little bit more as a coach to get a little more consistency?
Yeah, definitely. And last week against St. Joe, we had that. We had a lot of drives that we could grind out a little bit. It just happened that, two-play drives, I'm not going to be angry about two-play drives. It's okay. But, yeah, there were a few drives there that we put together, 5, 6, 7-play drive, 30, 40 yards off of it, but then just kind of stalled and we'd have to punt the ball. So finishing those things is a next step for us. That'll obviously help our offense.
You guys go back on the road again next week, going back to Lake Michigan there, playing Stevensville Lakeshore. It's a long trip for the Spartans. It's always a tough game to go all the way to Lakeshore and play those games in the SMAC, no matter who they are. Playing at Lakeshore, long road trip, and still looking for your first win of the season. What kind of challenges is that for the Spartans, and what have you seen on tape against the Lancers so far?
Stevensville's been a quality program for many years, and there's still that program. I know Danny Thompson, their head coach over there, and I think he does a great job. Still same kind of response that I've had the first 4 weeks here, is that we got to concentrate on ourselves and continue to clean up the mistakes that we've been making and see if we can just grow and get better again this next week. And there's always a chance, and we can go in there and battle and execute, and good things will happen.
Pretty healthy for the most part from everybody. Are you guys kind of get some nicks and bumps here a little bit? That's kind of hurting your depth. How you going with that kind of situation so far?
We're doing okay health-wise. Again, just not numbers that we want to be, but health-wise, knock on wood, we're staying healthy out there, and we're just going to continue to battle and continue to get better every day.
All right, well, we'll talk about next week's game, that long road trip to Stevensville Lakeshore, and see if the Spartans can get off the schneid there and get that first win of the season. And we'll do that again next week, Coach. We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning here on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Coach's Corner on WBCK, brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Now back to the show.
Hey, we're back here on Coach's Corner on WBCK down here at Lakeview Ford, and we're here with our next Coach of the Morning here with Coach Warren Granger of the Battle Creek Central Bearcats. How's it going this morning, Coach?
Well, it's going pretty good. It's a beautiful morning, and
we're all down here chatting football, and that's a good thing. The Bearcats had a little tough night last night. They went on the road, and we were just talking to Coach Vernon about going to the Lakeshore and playing that far away from home, and that's a tough road trip for anybody. And you guys went there and you lost 42-14 to Stevensville Lakeshore. The Lancers are 4-1, and they're a good team. Valkyrie Central still looking for that first win. Hitting the road like that and you're hoping to have the kids kind of come together a little bit, a little bunker mentality there. When you guys got off the bus, it seems like Lakeshore had a little bit something for you last night, and that didn't quite happen. What happened out there for you guys?
Well, it was Mattawan that kicked our butt last night, not Lakeshore, but
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and actually the final was 49-7. So in fairness, I want to make sure they get credit for all the points they scored. We last night was one of those nights where, for whatever reason, whatever could go wrong went wrong. And I don't know, we've faced a lot of adversity this year, and we've not played very well some nights and played pretty good some others, but still lost. But I'm not sure why the man upstairs feels like we need to be going through everything we're going through, but we trust that he has a plan, and we're going to follow it, and try to keep that in mind as we move forward. We have had tons of struggles, and every time you feel like that things just couldn't get a little bit worse, they just do for some reason. Last night was one of those nights where, we got off the bus feeling pretty good. Pre-game felt pretty good. The kids were fired up before the game. We opened the game moving the ball. We get a couple first downs, which really, we opening drive-wise all year long haven't put together like a drive where we had a couple of first downs at the beginning of the game like that. And then all of a sudden there's a penalty, there's a holding penalty, and all of a sudden, instead of being first down, it's 2nd and 16. And now our whole strategy really last night was to slow down the game, work the clock, run the football. We wanted to establish the run and sustain a drive. Like, we put together a drive that runs 6 minutes off the clock in the first quarter and just establish ourselves offensively. And, clicking, going really well. Holding call, 2nd and 16. Now we have to throw the ball. The clock's stopping. We're punting it with 9 minutes to go on the clock. And so from that point, as soon as that didn't go well, it was just like dominoes, you know what I mean? Like, just one of those nights where, we're going to throw a screen pass on 3rd and long. What's the worst that could happen? A defensive tackle picks off the pass and runs it for a touchdown. That's what happened. And it's just like, that just one thing after another throughout the entire game. The worst thing that could happen happened. And I don't know, when you're 16 and you're 17 and that's happening to you, I don't know where you find it. You know, I was that age once and I played high school football, but I never went through the struggles that my kids go through on the football field. And you know, we never when I was in high school, we never lost like that. And so I don't know how you find whatever it is that you have within you to continue to fight and continue to stay positive and continue to trust. And I was amazed last night that in the second half, we're down 35-0 at halftime. And I have kids in the locker room encouraging each other to keep fighting. I have kids in the locker room that are encouraging each other not to give up. You know, we come out in the second half and we maintained our fight throughout the game despite the circumstances. And, you know, I got to give my kids credit. You know, Callie Bay is one of our captains, and, you know, everything had gone wrong. We're down 35-0. He's our defensive captain. He's our middle linebacker. Everything had gone wrong, and he's in the locker room trying to motivate guys. And how amazing, you know, is that from a 16-year-old kid? So, I don't know. As a coach, you try to find positives in every negative situation, and that's my job right now. Try to keep the kids engaged and focused. And when you're 0-5, you know, they say that there shouldn't be a whole lot that you're proud of, but I'm proud of my kids, and quite honestly, I'm proud of my coaches. I really truly believe, you know, when you have struggles like this, everybody looks at the coaches, right? Coaches, all of a sudden, we don't know what we're doing anymore, you know. All of a sudden, we don't know how to coach or how to call plays or any of that stuff. But I'm proud of my coaches. I really truly believe that there isn't a coaching staff in the state of Michigan that works harder than mine. I don't mean to downplay anybody else's coaching staffs. I know they all work hard, but I don't think anybody works harder than my coaching staff does. And what they give to the kids and what they do for the kids is just amazing. And so I'm really proud of us as a program. I'm proud of our kids. I'm proud of our coaches. And really, you know, I looked up, I don't do this very often, but I knew my mom was going to be there last night. So I looked up in the bleachers at the beginning of the game so I could wave at my mom. And at the end of the game, our bleachers still had just as many people in them. So I'm proud of our community too, those who came out last night and supported us, you know, sticking around for the kids throughout the game, even though there wasn't really much to cheer for. And speaking of that, even, you know, the cheerleaders too, which is a great group of girls in our high school. They always continue to stay positive and find a way to make positive out of stuff. And, you know, there's a lot to be proud of in our program. And, you know, we have homecoming coming up next week, and we play arguably the best team in the conference in Portage Central. And when everything's going wrong, you don't want to have to play the very best team in the conference. But that's where we're at. And I told the kids last night, I'm like, we just need to be real with each other. Things might get worse before they get better. So, you know, maybe there'll be a few kids that don't want to stick around and go through that. But I'd be willing to bet the majority of them are going to stay with us, and they're going to stay fighting, and it just is what it is. And a couple years from now, we might look back and say, man, I'm really glad I went through that adversity, because it, you know, it gave me what I needed to go forward through this situation that I'm in right now. So,
yeah, well, last year you guys had that total opposite situation. You guys were winning games, and that confidence was there, and those kids were winning games because that confidence was there. A lot of those same kids, not a lot of them, but enough of those same kids are on this year's team, and they want better, obviously, like you said. And you think some of those kids who know that feeling from last year and have that taste in your mouth, the Devoyne Newtons, the Callie Bays, who know what's possible and can feel like that, how good it feels to win a game, that they want to make sure that some of these kids feel that this year, that maybe weren't part of that last year, and how that confidence can build itself last year and make sure that things go forward this year. how much can that play into it in terms of those leaders, and knowing that we had this last year and we can build on that and we can turn it around and then use some of that?
I think that's the sole reason why our team hasn't fallen apart. I mean, we haven't fallen apart because of guys like Devoyne Newton. I told Devoyne last night, I'm so proud of you. I've been proud of him since he was a kid because of the way that he carries himself in athletics and the class that he plays with. But in a situation like this where we're 0-5, you know, he comes up to me after the game and he just, you know, he gave me a hug and he said, "Coach, I still believe in us." And Devoyne's 16 years old, you know. I mean, it just makes me so proud to have kids. But I think that the experiences that he has had in our football program have built that, along with obviously having very supportive parents who teach that and raise him that way. Last year's team, you know, obviously he was a leader on, and you go through those kind of seasons sometimes too, and you don't ever forget what that felt like. And no matter what circumstance you are in at the moment, you want that again. And Devoyne, Callie, those guys want that again. And you know, Noah Nichols is another one of our captains, just plays his heart out for us, and he wants that again. And those kids will keep fighting for it, no matter how down they are.
Well, like you mentioned real quickly there, Porter Central's coming to town next week, a really tough team, and it's something to look forward there, and the Bearcats having to host them on homecoming. So we'll look forward to that, talking about that game and them coming to town and see if we can get things turned around and get that first win this season and shock the world. Hey, Coach, we'll talk about that.
Just want to make our community proud. We want to give them a product they can be proud of, win or lose.
I appreciate it, Coach. We'll be back with our next Coach of the Morning here on WBCK 95.3 FM.
Policy rates may vary.
On 95.3 WBCK, proudly brought to you by Lakeview Ford, where community matters. Here's Coach's Corner.
Hey, we're back here with our next Coach of the Morning here. We're at Mason Converse, the Harbor Creek Beavers. How's it going, Coach, this morning?
Good morning, Bill.
We had undefeated Harbor Creek Beavers going into last night on the road, state ranked, and trying to play for first place in the I-8 against the defending champs in Hastings. Hastings got up on you guys early and then kind of took care of business from there, and they beat Harbor Creek 34-6. The Hastings, you knew Hastings was going to be a good team. They defending champs for a reason. They kind of got up on top of you early and then didn't take their foot off the pedal. What were they doing that kind of gave you guys trouble last night a little bit?
They were. We just got punched in the face last night, and sometimes that happens from time to time. I felt like we had a good week of practice, and I felt like we were ready to play. We're still young, and we were a little tight last night, a little nervous, and talking about it, thinking about it. Not a single one of our games last year mattered, and I don't mean doesn't matter to mom or dad or anything like that. I mean just mattered in terms of standings. We started out 1-5. And finished the year 3-6, and so none of the games that we played last year had any kind of importance for playoffs, for the league title, anything like that. So this was the first time those young men have been in that kind of a position, and that's on me. I've got to get them more comfortable with being in those, because those are the games you want to be in. Those are the games that should be fun and you should play in. And we talked all week about having the pressure of that kind of game. That's a privilege because you've earned it and you put yourself in that position, and we have earned that. We just didn't play like it early on. I'm really proud of our guys and how we continued to battle. I mean, really, it was a 6-12 game in the second half. They were up on us 22-0 at halftime, and against a team like that, it's tough to come back because they control the ball. But we didn't quit. We didn't hang our heads. We didn't let them continue to go down and just score another 22 points on us. We battled them, and it was pretty even in the second half. And so I'm proud of that. We did make some things happen, although albeit small, but they made some things happen, and in the end they were more physical than us, and they played faster than us, and they deserved the win. So let's give them credit for doing those things to make us look the way we did.
And on the other side of that, Hastings has been in that situation. They were league champs, so they were 10-2 overall last year, and some of those kids were part of that last year. And the idea that they kind of came in, they knew that first place was on the line themselves. Did you see some confidence on their side of the ball right from the get-go, and that kind of set the tone of the game a little bit, you think?
It was. I mean, they're the 3-time defending champs for a reason. We talked all week that they weren't. We know they graduated a big senior class, but we talked all week about how they weren't just going to give it up. We were going to have to go in and take it. Hastings is a tough place to play. They defend their home turf really well. We got the ball, and we actually drove the field, put a little bit of a drive together, and we did. If you look at the statistics, we did time of possession. We hung in there. We moved the ball on offense. We just couldn't be consistent enough, and we'd get behind the sticks and just couldn't move the chains and convert to them. And again, against a team like that, if you force them, if you can't score and keep up with them, and then on the flip side, we'd have them 3rd and long, and we just did not. Their offense, what they do, they're so good at what they do, it causes kids to sometimes lose their discipline, and we didn't play with enough discipline last night to see those receivers coming out. And it's tough to simulate that during the week in practice. We tried our best and obviously did not do a good enough job because they had receivers running wide open on 3rd and 8s. And so again, that comes back to coaching, and we've got to do a better job of that. We've got to find a better way to coach our kids to put them in a better position to be successful going forward. But they definitely played with confidence, they being Hastings.
Did they try to I mean, you guys have been winning a lot of games with that running game, and Bronson Carpenter has been a threat as well as some other running backs for you all season long, and they cut that down a little bit last night. Were they stacking the box a little bit, daring you to do something else? And then even though you did have a couple drives there, the offense wasn't quite where it was, or you didn't get the explosive plays maybe that as much as you had the last few weeks. Is that right?
We didn't get the explosive plays last night, or if we had an explosive play, then we'd stub our toe on the next series of downs and kind of put ourselves behind the chains right there. But no, they won their one-on-one battles last night. It wasn't necessarily that they were stacking the box. I mean, I thought actually they widened out and covered our receivers pretty well. I thought they took away our bubble game a little bit with their alignment last night. So we thought, okay, we're going to be able to run on them, and their defensive line was quicker than us last night, had a little more grit than us last night, and really caused problems for our offensive line the majority of the night. So we've got to go back to work and get better when we're playing against a team like that, because our offensive line has been doing great all season long, and last night was definitely not our best game.
I think you're riding high last week, undefeated, ranked in the state, and you talked about a young team like you have, and those kids were confidence was brewing, and then all of a sudden they lose a game. So then with a young team, you wonder what's going to happen next after that situation. The bus ride home is long, and the kids start thinking about, maybe we aren't what we were, but now you have to build that confidence up again, because there's another big game coming up this week. Parma Western, another contender in the league, is coming to your place. How do you build that confidence back? How do you get that confidence back and get those kids feeling like that 5-0 team again?
Well, we're 4-1, and we're good enough to be 4-1. So this is part of life. Face yourself in the mirror and you say, listen, we got our butts kicked last night. The Hastings was better. They deserved the win. And this is what I told them after the game. I said, we did. We got punched in the face, and we just got our butts kicked. And sometimes that happens. And it's not the result of that determines who you are. It's how you get up from that. And I know that's a cliche, but we will get back to work. We'll get better. And all of our hopes and dreams in terms of conference championships, playoffs, nothing really changed from last night other than now we have a loss. So because we could still win the conference, we need a little help. We still can make the playoffs. We still can continue on and have a terrific season, which we are having a terrific season. It's just that we're 4-1 instead of 5-0. So that's what I told them. I said, I'm proud of you guys. You didn't quit last night, and you continue to play in that. That shows the heart of what these guys have, and we'll be better as we continue to get that experience.
Parma Western, what are you seeing on them on tape so far with them already in terms of what they bring at the table and what challenges they might have for you?
I think they're every bit as good as what they've shown and what their record shows. They have a lot of kids who have been playing now for 3 years. Their defense is stout and physical up front, so we're going to play another physical team. They like to spread the ball out on offense and on defense. They remind me a little bit of Buddy Ryan back from the late 80s, early 90s. They're going to be in your face, and they want to try and smack you hard and early and get you behind the sticks, and they're going to play press man with their corners and say, go ahead, we dare you to throw, and get it off before we can sack you. So in fact, if you go back and watch some of those Buddy Ryan Eagles, that's what they remind me of. So it's going to be a physical, hard-fought football game, but we will be ready.
All right, Coach. Well, we'll talk about that game next week when we get to that. And We'll be back with hopefully another win in the Interstate 8. Thanks a lot. We'll be back. We are done with Coach's Corner this morning, and we will be here for another week. I'm Bill Broderick with WBCK FM 93.5.